Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kastuba Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's Sleeping Saturday. It's Q&A day today. What do you think of that? Welcoming a new Zoomer, baby Bhakti J, to the show.
Bhakti J.
Bhakti J, we call him. Little
Vedic J.
Bhakti J. We call him Vedic J.
He's already got a nickname.
Vedic J. Welcome, Vedic J. And welcome to all the Zoomers. If you want to join us live on Zoom, you can. This podcast goes out to thousands of people we don't even see, but there is a unique club, an executive club, premier club. You can enter that club very easily by emailing this lady, Mara, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. She'll send you the secret codes to enter into our premium access, backstage, VIP entrance. Costs nothing. You just come on in. Then we get to see it and talk about you and your kids on the show, spy on your apartment. If you're new to the show, welcome. If you're listening on the Facebook, this is our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We do this every day, believe it or not. We're on 1,002 episodes. And on Saturdays, we do questions and answers from our audience. And you can send in a question also to the same email address, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Sundays, we have a special guest. Tomorrow, we have a great special guest. He's a prolific author and a writer, lots of Vedic stories. This guy is a treasure chest of stories, including this book me and Mara cannot stop reading. The little
Krishna.
Little blue book on Krishna.
Oh.
And he did one on the Hanuman Chalis too. And anyway, the guy's great. Shubha Vilas is his name. He's a brahmachari, lawyer, very educated, very well-read, and really dynamic person. I'm excited to have him on the show tomorrow. Don't miss that.
Great.
And today we're going to dive into some questions, but first some announcements. Miss Mara.
We have Bhakti Recovery Group meeting today at 9:30 a.m. and Inanda Chandra Shloka Memorization Group is at 10 a.m. today.
Do we have a way we can join the Nityananda Chandra Shloka Memorization Group? Is there a way to do that?
Mara at Wisdom of the Sages 108.
And then I'll forward that on to Inanda Chandra.
At gmail.com.
But yeah, that's basically, yeah. And I think if you're a Patreon member, in the weekly email that comes out, his email address is included and instructions on how to join the Shloka Memorization Group.
It's good to learn shlokas. My kids are doing it.
All right.
Kids do it. Me and Mara are practicing regularly.
Adults do it.
Shlokas. Huh?
Kids do it. Adults do it. Anyone can do it.
Let's do it. Let's learn some shlokas.
Okay, let's get into the questions as
Let's get
quickly
into our
as possible.
questions.
You are today you are in some mood. I
I was in a little bit of a bad mood, but I saw your face and I got all excited.
Oh, don't try to
I was
a
feeling
little jiu-jitsu
grumpy.
on me right there. You're gonna
Well, my kids,
do a
it's
little
April
positive
Fool's, so
energy
my
on me.
9-year-old's driving me nuts today. He's like,
April
you want
Fool's
some
Day.
yogurt, Dad? He gave me vegan-A's for
Oh.
instead of yogurt. And then he
Gotcha.
put like Scotch tape across my door, so I'd trip over it and catch it on my face.
Well, that's because you put scotch tape across his door while he was still sleeping.
And I drew a mustache on him while he was sleeping too. And I put tomatoes in his shoes, but he doesn't know about that yet.
You deserve everything you get, Raghunath.
Okay, we got a question here. This
Okay.
is from a woman we love.
Mm.
She's been to India with me twice, been to Nepal with me. She's a scientist, Kastuba. We have scientists that listen to the show. You thought it was just a bunch of dropouts? No, these people are professionals.
Okay.
Jen Hunt from New Jersey. Anything you want to say about Jen Hunt?
We love her.
We love her.
Okay.
Dear Wisdom of the Sages, I will start with extending my appreciation for everything you do to create and support this community. Retreats, podcasts, sage groups, trainings, etc. In fact, Wisdom of the Sages has just become the foundation for my sadhana.
Oh, that's great.
That's great.
We want to offer more and more coming down the pipe.
Yeah,
once we get our act
We really
together.
do. We're trying to think, how can we expand this? If you got any ideas, we're open to it. But this is what me, Kastuba and Mara, we're putting our heads together, Braj Bihar. We're trying to think how to expand this further and further. Okay. Bhakti wisdom has helped me come to better deal with changes and challenges in my life. I mean, Jen Hunt, she's married. She has grown children. She's a professional. I think she's entering retirement this year. It's not like the old days where people get into Bhakti as sort of like a rebellion. Like, I don't want to go to college. I'm going to live in an ashram. It's not like that anymore. I think Wisdom of the Sages is especially
2.0.
It's 2.0. We're getting scientists into this now. Me and Kastuba are the only uneducated people.
There are some scientists in it from the beginning.
Yeah, there
going
were
back early.
Yeah, we had some scientists, but now
Important
like,
scientists.
Jen Hunt could be one of these Vaishnav scientists.
Maybe we should hook her up with the Bhaktivedanta Institute. Maybe she has something to contribute.
That could be her retirement. Okay, anyway. Bhakti wisdom has helped me to deal with changes and challenges in my life. Teenage dramas.
Oh, yeah.
Right, her teenagers, right?
Yeah.
Children leaving home. Yeah,
Oh.
that's a big one.
That's a
My
empty
own
nest
age,
syndrome.
my own aging and uncertainty about the future.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I'll be turning 60 this year.
You're going to be there soon too, Rogo.
No, not me. I'm 3 years away from being 60.
Less than
isn't it?
3 years.
Oh, shut up. Is it offensive to say shut up to a Vaishnav? Hare Krishna, forgive me. Of course, I share some of her. Oh, I am generally an other when it comes to the podcast, preferring to listen and sometimes re-listen during my daily walks. But on weekends, I often listen to Q&A or on Facebook. Recently, I've been giving a lot of thought to Sherry's question regarding fear of death. Of course, I share some of her anxiety, but in reflection, I realize what I may fear more is dementia and a long goodbye that slowly robs me of my independence and mind, putting my family in a position to support me when I can no longer care for myself. Also, how do you pronounce that? Alzheimer's disease runs in my family, and my mother recently passed after her long illness with this disease. We first noticed her symptoms in her late 60s, and her last years were so sad to me because she seemed to have lost touch with everything that made her her. I do what I can to take care of my physical body and brain, and have even enrolled in clinical trial for Alzheimer's prevention. But I know I carry the gene, and more important, I learn the clinical study. The more I learn, the more information.
And the more information I learn from
study,
the clinical study, the
the
more
more real this all feels. Okay. I would appreciate if you could frame dementia and Alzheimer's disease in the Bhakti context, and particularly why the self may take so long to leave the physical mind body when it is diseased and no longer able to interact with the material world. Of course, I'm also hoping to become a resident of the Wisdom of the Sages retirement community. That's my fantasy,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
I think it can.
Yeah.
I think it's real, because I am sure if I'm surrounded by kirtan and chanting, all will be well. But until then, some Bhakti wisdom could be much appreciated. Kindest regards, Jen Hunt. I love her. Okay,
all right.
Kastuba, you want to go first?
Well, there's so much, Raghunath, so much to say about this really important question. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, really, honestly, I think we do a whole show on it. I know you don't like to do that with the questions necessarily, but
I don't.
there's so much to say. Let me start here. First of all, I want to say that I'm going to bring up ideas about zooming out, seeing this from a transcendental perspective. And that could be challenging sometimes to people. But you see, the reason why I feel entirely confident in just going there is because she's already said, I'm doing on the physical level, I take care of my physical body, I take care of my brain, right? And she's enrolled in the clinical trial. So on the practical level, she's been active, right? She's doing what she should do. She's covering those bases. Now we have to look at it from the philosophical point of view to try to, how will I understand this? How will I relate to this? You know, how will I, can I view this in a way where it doesn't become disempowering, where it doesn't keep me in a state of fear, but where I can look at it, maybe zoom out and see from different perspectives. Now, Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, there's this, there's verses 8 through 12 in the 13th chapter describe the different virtues that lead to you could say to knowledge, you could even say to wisdom, right? The different virtues in life that lead us to deeper understanding. And mentioned there is this phrase, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. You know the rest of it, Raga? You know that one?
I don't know Sanskrit of it.
Dukkha dosh anudarshanam.
Dukkha dosh anudarshanam.
Yeah. Janma means birth, Mrityu means death, Jara, old age, Vyadhi, disease. Right. So what we're talking about here is disease, Alzheimer's disease. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, birth, death, old age, disease. Dukkha dosh anudarshanam. The dukkha, the miseries, and the doshas, the miseries that are caused by these faults in life, you know, dukkha dosh anudarshanam. We need to be able to see it clearly, understand it clearly, not shy away from it, not hide from it, not bury our head in the sand, but we need to look at it clearly and come to terms with it. And that's part of what opens up knowledge, like deeper understanding about what life is all about. In this way, even these painful things or fearful things, they begin for the spiritual person, they begin to help us open our eyes up, see things from different perspectives, really see truth, you know. So in this way, even this challenge of Alzheimer's, which is, I could get it, it could be a terrifying thing, can become a liberating thing. Now, you know, it's so interesting in Bhagavatam that you have the story of Brahma. We've read this already. It came up in earlier cantos, but Brahma, if there's any, you know, we're all moving around this world trying to manipulate it, trying to control it, trying to adjust it in such a way we'll have the most comfortable and pleasurable ride, right? But we're also ill-equipped to do that. Now you have Brahma. There's no one more equipped, right, in this world. He's the person that designed and engineered the universe. But we see even right off the bat, he's struggling with his inability to control. He has his first kids, all right, the four Kumaras. The four Kumaras, you know, he's got a mission. Hey, join into my mission. I've been given this God-given mission. I need your help.
The
right?
rebellious teenagers like, no, we're not going to do it.
The kids just turn around right away and say, no, we're not going to, you know, he was saying, I need you to help, you know, to create progeny. It's part of my God-given mission. Let's do this. It's noble. It's the right thing to. No, we're not going to participate in that.
No, not interested.
He becomes angry, you know. Then Lord Shiva's. It just describes step by step how he becomes embarrassed, how he becomes frustrated, how he becomes, you know. We can't control this world, even though we move through this world thinking that we can. If we look at it for real, we see we can't. Think about this, Raghunath. Every night we go to bed, we lie down to go to sleep, and then we just go off into some other world. We're so vulnerable to what we experience in our dreams. Sometimes people, they repeatedly have bad dreams. Going to sleep is fearful for them because they're just so frightened of where this dream what am I going to dream tonight? We can't control it. We're vulnerable. You know, a person with Alzheimer's disease is vulnerable, right? I can't control it. I'm stuck in this body and I have this brain condition that's left me really out of control. Well, we're out of control all the time. It's like our control can be taken from us at any second. It's an illusion that we're in control. We try to gain some measure of control in this life, but we see we're constantly losing that control. When we're a baby, we just saw we have our brand new a member of our community here,
Vedic J.
little Vedic J, right? He was just born to Daniel. It's like when you're a baby, what can you control? You're totally vulnerable. When we get older, we get vulnerable. When you get old and you have Alzheimer's, you're really, really vulnerable. But let's try to understand it from like this yogic perspective. What's going on when someone has Alzheimer's, right? There's a malfunctioning going on in the brain. That we can understand. But what we learn from these yogic texts is like our vehicle that we're moving around in, is coming in different layers of subtlety. Like the body is relatively crude. And then the brain is it's more refined, more subtle. And then the mind is still more subtle, still matter, right? But a very fine, very, very refined, very subtle form of matter. And this connection between the mind and the brain is a very mysterious one. It's hard to put a finger, but we can understand that we're going, it's like if you take it's like, say, surgery, like if even like a very serious surgery, like say like heart surgery, like if the what do you call it? Not the aorta, but the different,
I don't know,
veins. So, but
veins.
they get clogged. It's kind of crude. They get clogged up with like a plaque.
You're not a scientist, right?
I am.
Thought you were. I thought you were a scientist also. Okay.
And more or less you have to cut them open and clear it out. The arteries, thank you. The different arteries, it's kind of crude surgery in one sense. Okay, we get it. The thing's clogged up. We got to cut it open, put a stent in there, sew it back up, and then let it flow again. Brain surgery is more refined. It's far more delicate. It's a much more subtle machine. The mind is still more subtle. To adjust the mind is like you can't just cut the thing and put a stent in there and sew it back up. It's like it's still more subtle, and the most subtle is the self, the soul. So we're this very subtle soul working with a mind that's connected to a brain that moves the body. And Alzheimer's disease is there's something went wrong in that brain. Something in the brain broke down. Now you're still the same person behind it. Even your mind may be undamaged, but your brain is damaged. So it looks to everybody in the world that you've lost your mind. Like just like even in the simplest sense, like let's go back to typewriters. Like if I had a typewriter and some of the keys were messed up, then it looks like whatever I type through that typewriter, when you read it on the other end, it looks like, oh, he's kind of like messing things up. Or, if there's some kind of malfunction on my computer, or even if like my computer process is really slow, I'm slow in getting back to you. It seems like, oh, he's kind of dull.
Do you remember typewriters when the keys would cross and lock like that?
Well, that's when you push them all at the same time.
Did you ever use a typewriter?
I never really knew how to type. I only learned when the computers came out. But so if you're communicating through a computer that's got some issues, you may appear like you've got issues. No, it's just my computer has issues, And so a person with Alzheimer's is like that. It means that you could be in that condition, and I'll give you an example. What the point that I'm trying to make is that even if you're in that condition, and it appears to everyone like you're completely out of it, you can't remember anyone. You can't even remember the people that you've lived your whole life with. Even you don't remember the person from yesterday. I knew one devotee woman, right? Her name was Mother Isha, right? And she got involved in with the devotees and moved into the temple in Boston in like the 70s. But she was like older than everyone. Like it was mostly like young people in their early 20s or even teens that were moving into the temples in. And she was like an older woman, like maybe in her 40s or something like that. I forget her exact age.
40s is old.
It was, yeah, she was like, and I only knew her when she was much older. And she was this sweet old lady. She was like the grandmother of the whole temple. She would come every weekend. She would knit things for people and sew things, and she always had gifts. Like she would come, every Sunday to the temple and give everyone gifts and do her service. Sweetest lady, so sweet. And then she was living in a retirement home, and she got Alzheimer's disease. And most of the devotees she didn't even remember. But actually one time she was calling she was actually calling for my wife. She's saying Gita Priya, and they called for my wife to go see her, and there was some connection underneath that she wanted to connect with my wife. Naranjana Swami, who was so much the caring father of that community for so long, he would come. And as soon as you start to chant, she would jump into the mantra and start to just sing the mantra. Like it was there in her, she was just looking for something to hold on to, So we have to try to really understand what's going on, that even if this world is dangerous, I'm not in control. I may get Alzheimer's disease. I may break both my legs. I may become a quadriplegic. I may die tomorrow. Any of these things may happen. If we fear them, we will, we can get lost in a world of fear. The bad news is that this material world is totally, at every step, there's danger, and we're incredibly vulnerable. The good news is, on the spiritual level, the soul is entirely invulnerable. Nothing can harm it, And even 10 years of Alzheimer's is like a blip in time. What to speak of if you actually have this, you're kind of like Jada Bharata, like you appear like one way to everybody, but underneath you have this strong devotion, this strong faith. And so certainly we hope that Jen will not have to go through this. She's got the gene, so statistically her chances are greater. Hopefully that's it's still a small chance and it won't happen, but if it does, just prepare yourself for it, so that when you get there, you're going to be like, I knew this was a possibility, but deep in you can be holding on to that devotional essence. And just like we're reading all about this now, right? Jada Bharata was in the body of a deer, right? But he understood, I know why I'm in the body of a deer. I know where I need to go, that someone could be in a state of Alzheimer's and be like, I know this mantra, I'm going to hold on to it for my dear life. And who knows the experience that person is, people could see that Mother Isha, that she would just forget people that she knew her whole life. But you could tell that her whole devotion, that there was something, on the spiritual level connected to her sadhana and her practice that she was holding on to in there. And that she hadn't lost it. She was holding on to it, So those are just some of my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts, Trevor.
Good answer. Yeah, the hardware's breaks down.
Yeah.
Which is more to meditate upon right now. And for Jen, I'll give specific instructions to Jen, but if it fits your foot too, somebody out there, you can wear it too. Jen, you need to take bigger steps towards Krishna. You need to take larger, giant steps. Remember playing, what was that game? Mother, May I? Take one baby step forward. Was that it? Take one baby step forward. Take one spinning jump forward. Take one giant step forward. Take many giant steps forward, Jen. And a lot of us are practicing bhakti, but no one knows about it. We're like undercover bhakti people. We're like, my spouse doesn't know, my kids don't know. Take giant steps forward. And I say that because now's the time more than any time.
You're 60.
When it's not just Alzheimer's, it's anything. When I'm diseased, when I'm sick, when I have some chronic issue, when I'm going through some type of pain. That's around the corner for everybody. It just comes in different flavors for everybody. There's never great ways to age and die, really. It's all very sort of ugly. So while we're healthy, take giant steps forward. And sometimes we have to just like publicly say, honey, kids, I want you to know, I love Krishna. I'm connected with Krishna, or I'm connected. This is my spiritual path. That way, they'll know how to support you. And step forward means, I mean, and we've all experienced this already. Jen has also. As you step forward towards spirituality, you have not just Krishna stepping closer to you, but a community stepping closer to you. You know, me and Mara feel close to Jen Hunt because she's stepped forward, you know, and so the community supports us in times of sickness, tragedy, loss. I know when I was in the hospital with COVID a couple of years ago, a community came and fed me so I didn't have to eat that hospital food. I felt supported, buoyed by the community. And we have to let our loved ones know, hey, this is sort of like where my faith lies. And, you know, if I'm going through some struggle, here's what I need.
Right.
I need some kirtan playing on a regular basis.
Right.
I need some food cooked with love. This is how you offer. This is the type of food I want to eat. This is what my room should look like. These are the pictures I want on the wall, you know, like when Gopal was leaving his body. You know what I mean? He had the devotees come in and we decorated his entire room. So his room was like he was living on an altar practically with pictures of Krishna everywhere. Fortunately, his parents were a little in tune and they said, you know, what should we do? What should be some of the appropriate rites for you know, him when he leaves his body? What should we do with his ashes? What should we do? Let people know these things. We got to come out of the closet with our bhakti. That's my 2 cents.
No, I think that's a great point. In other words, it's just like, hey, if I'm ever in this condition, this is what I want.
This is what I need. Yeah, this is.
Oh, Raghunath, we lost you.
It's okay.
Oh, there you go.
Hello. There we go.
You're back.
All right.
Is that a different
Next
camera?
question. Next question, sir. Can you hear me?
I can. Yes.
Okay.
You're a little frozen, but I can hear you.
You want to read the next question?
Okay. Hope that was helpful, Jen. And of course, we wish you all the best with that. This is coming from C.J. Goodman.
CJ Goodman.
Sounds like a name of could be like a J.C. Penney or a Woolworth.
Oh, that's where I got my last suit at CJ Goodman's.
That's C.J. Goodman. Okay. I've been chanting for a few months now. All right, CJ. Reading the Bhagavad Gita a few times. Excellent, CJ. Burning through Wisdom of the Sages podcast episodes. Watching Prabhupada's talks on YouTube. Also, I've taken up the 4 regulative principles. I dig it, he says. Can you dig it, Raghu?
I dig it. He's doing good. You're doing a good job, CJ.
He says, I'm hooked. I'm in. I don't know if I'd call myself a devotee, but I'm devoted to becoming a devotee.
Okay, that's good.
Excellent. The chanting feels like putting on armor for the day, even if I only do 2 rounds of it. And living my life trying to see everyone as a spirit soul really makes me more compassionate, understanding, and tolerant. Excellent. This is great. What a great thing to hear. Here's the pickle. Ready?
Pickle. Great word.
I just can't wrap my head around this beautiful little blue boy and his escapades being quote unquote factual, for lack of a better word. Am I missing something? These aren't meant to be taken as stories, right? If there were cameras at the time, they would have been able to video record this cowherd dancing on a serpent's head. Not to mention the creation stories. Some of it is just way out there and hard to swallow as factual, although I want to. I can extract a lot from it, all the stories, but I feel like I might be missing the essence if I don't see them as actual history. Does it really even matter, though? If I don't believe the sun is still in the sky at night, that's just my perception. It's still there, whether I see it or not. Thank you, Haribol.
Great question. Great question. And I think to understand stuff, it is not faith-based. It is experience-based. So I would focus on the things that you can experience. Focus on the things that do make absolute sense to you. I was just watching a video of where we got the days of the week in 24 hours from. I should post it on Discord, because it all traces back to Vedic astrology or Vedic astronomy. And you focus on these things that you're sort of
Saturn, Monday is moon, like that. that what you mean?
Yeah, but the weird one is Tuesday, because Tuesday is from Mangala. It's the day of Mangaladwar. But because this stuff got pushed from the east throughout the world, then they changed it to their local gods, Greek gods, Roman gods, etc. And then finally the British said, okay, this is how it is, and then we teach it back to India, like we have some superior ideas. So you got to focus on what you can understand and leave it with that. And then understand that all these great thinkers who understood Sanskrit, astronomy, these deep concepts of Vedic culture, they also understood that it's more subtle things. God is personal and impersonal. God has form. There's explicit forms of God. God can take form in the deity. God can enter the deity so we can worship God. Sound makes a difference. Sound affects your mind. YouTube and say sound effects on sand, and I just YouTube search that, and how sand affects, like, it makes different mandalas in the sand if you put it on sort of like a very tight rubber skin. If you play like syllable Om or Vedic mantras, it makes it appear different ways. So sound affects us. Figure out what you can understand. And then all these people who believe in this stuff, they also say, well, actually, God also has form. Now, you can't perceive it, but that's okay. I can't perceive anything. You know why? Because my senses are completely limited. I will never know if Krishna is real unless it comes through some deeper revelation of the heart. Or Krishna, or I get so pure in consciousness. And this is what the sages say. You have to have your lenses completely clean to actually see Krishna face to face. He's actually right in front of you, but you can't perceive because I still have material vision. So do the work to get free of that material vision, and then it will all be fact. And I'm sure you can get it now, because I know in my own life, there were things I didn't get when I first heard this stuff. And for years, my introduction to Krishna was, oh, these guys are so crazy. These guys are so nuts. I can't believe they think that God is a lion man. They think that, all of this stuff sounded like a joke. But there was something that I did relate to. But these guys actually talk about vegetarianism. That makes sense to me. People talk about that there is one God and all these religions are the same, and they're all meant to understand God. They say that love of God is the highest thing. They believe in these mystical, metaphysical things, but they don't say they're the highest thing. These guys believe. So there's so many things I did get, and that strung me along. Do I know Krishna's real? I don't know. I've never hung out with Krishna personally, but the other stuff I do understand, I get. And because of that, I move forward. And that's what we're asking. We're not asking you to join the blind faith club. You work in faith comes in small increments, and then take a step forward. And when something doesn't make sense, don't throw it all out. Just you take a step back and wait till you can figure out, okay, now what makes sense to me, and then move forward from there. What do you think? I was interested in Mara, because Mara's new to this game.
What do you think,
Relatively new. What do you think, Mara? Do you think that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That was how I got around.
How did you get?
Because stuff that I didn't believe.
She didn't believe it, but she liked me. She liked me as a yoga teacher.
I did. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I was drawn to reading more about it, and I was sort of like, the could be. Like, I don't know what I don't know, also sort of drew me in of like, well, what do I know? Even the planets aren't the same as the way we learn them in school anymore. Like the stuff that change it, like science and how quickly it all changes from what we originally learned. It's like, oh, actually, a lot of the stuff we're taught, like maybe it's not known. So yeah, could be.
Maybe you can't follow the science, because there's things we talk about science, we learn things through empiricism. What if you can't? What if we're missing senses to have perfect knowledge? We want perfect knowledge with imperfect senses. That's a problem, right? There's certain things we might not be able to perceive ever. We'll think, well, just give us time. We'll figure it out. Maybe not. Want to embellish on that?
No, thank you.
Take it in another direction?
Yeah. No, well, no, it's kind of the same direction, just saying in a different ways, I suppose. CJ was mentioning, okay, I'm doing all these different practices and I'm really getting a lot out of them. It feels great. I'm reading and I'm listening to the podcast and I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then he mentioned that that living my life, trying to see everyone as a spirit soul, really makes me more compassionate, understanding, and tolerant. Okay, awesome. In other words, you're becoming a better person by engaging with this. It's helping you think in new ways and so on. Here's what I would say, that when a person becomes more compassionate and more understanding and more tolerant, it's going to help you expand your mind, right? It's our selfishness and our selfish concerns that keep our mind very narrow, but as you begin to evolve, part of that can be expanding your mind and even expanding what you may think is possible. Now, we're talking about faith. And I liked where you ended, Raghunath, this idea that there's a common, I don't know if trend is the right word, or something, but like a common kind of presentation, and the idea there being that that whatever we can know about life, about the universe, can be understood through our senses. And if it can't be understood through our senses, then we throw it out, right? It's meant to be rejected. It's not meant to even be engaged with. And we've used that joke. It's been a long time, so we can share it again, right? But the you know what I'm talking about? Are you muted, Raghunath? I don't know if you're frozen, you're muted or something. Anyway, I'll tell the joke. It's like, there's you come home one night and there's someone like like your person that lives across the street, and it's nighttime and they're underneath the street lamp, down on their knees, looking around for something. And you walk up to them and you say, hey, you lost something there? Maybe I can help. They say, yeah, well, I lost the keys to my house. And they say, oh, you lost your keys? You lost them out here? No, I didn't lose them here. I lost them way over there. Well, then why are you looking here? Well, because the light is better here. The assumption that what all that there is to know lies within the realm of our senses is absurd, but it's put forward by people that have degrees in science as if it's factual. It's so logically weak. It's absurd. It's just like, the fact is whatever, basically what CJ is saying here is that although everything's making a lot of sense, and the practices are valuable and they're even changing my life, but this theological aspect of this broad culture and literary presentation, the theological part of it, to me, I can't expand my mind to accept that it's such a leap of faith. Even the whole thing sounds kind of kitschy. A
little kitschy. It's a little kitschy.
But the fact is, if you want to take the quote unquote, some of the quote unquote scientific presentation, they require just as much faith. They're just as incredible, right? More or less, he's saying it's incredible. It's hard to believe. But give me another presentation that's not hard to believe. However this universe is created is incredible, right? You're saying that it blew up from
everything came from nothing.
Everything came from nothing.
Every order,
and all these unbelievably
sound, sense, smell.
Yeah, and all these unbelievably intricate, complicated, sensitive, subtle creations, they just happened. That's incredible, right? I believe it's more credible to believe that there's an intelligence behind it, and wherever we find intelligence, we find personality. And then the question is, well, then, and if we can accept that, if we can open our mind at least to that possibility, well, then who is that person and what are they like? And this tradition goes into great detail, right? And what it's saying is that, and this is where he says, does it really matter though? And in one sense, yes, it does matter. Because where the philosophy that's in the practices that are helping you become more compassionate and understanding, well, they're saying that the highest principle in life and the very meaning of life, the very purpose of it all, is to go deep into love. That love is the purpose of all this. Love is what we're meant to discover. Love is what we're meant to recover. That's the whole point of life in this world. Is it's Groundhog Day, and we're going through it again and again and again, and we're meant to wake up at some point. When do we wake up? We wake up when we understand truly what love is, And when we love that source of our existence, and through that source, we love every living being. And so this spiritual tradition is saying we can take you so deep into that because we can go into great detail about who that person is, about who that root is. Now, how are we going to be able to understand it? If you have no faith in it and you're engaging with it on a surface level, it seems the whole thing is kitschy. Oh, there's this little blue boy, he's running around, this, But as Raghunath was saying, the people that have been into this for centuries, it's not like it's some tradition of simpletons. It's not just like some naive village people that are just completely,
bunch of fishermen.
Yeah. No, these are brilliant scientists, brilliant poets, playwrights, philosophers. They'll write philosophy so dense and thick that any powerful Western philosopher will engage with, and say, well, whether it's true or not, this is an impressive, deep philosophy. So there, if you the more that you engage with this tradition, on one hand, the more that you engage with the culture on another hand, the more that the culture that built these archaeological wonders, the culture that produced these incredibly beautiful poetry and language and so on, you'll understand that this is not, whatever this is, it's sophisticated. Whatever this is a very rich tradition. It's not some kitschy little thing. It's a very, very deep, powerful, intelligent, rich tradition. And still these people are accepting that this little blue boy is the source of everything. Well, then who is that? Maybe I have to go deeper into this understanding. Like, remember, Raghunath, when I shared with you when I was in Tiruvananthapuram in South India, a month and a half ago, or whatever it was, in February. I went into that temple, and around the inner sanctum are all these paintings of Krishna's Lila and Ram's Lila. And there's one painting of Krishna when he steals the clothes of the gopis and he's up in a tree.
Mm-hmm.
And this painting was I just can't describe how sublime it was. And when I looked at that painting of Krishna, to me, it wasn't all this kitschy little boy. I was looking into that painting like, I don't know you. And if I did, I would be madly in love with you. It's like you'll begin to see Krishna not as this silly little idea like a cartoon, but the idea of Krishna will become the deepest, deepest, deepest ocean of beautiful mysteries, and these great meditators and thinkers, they write of him in their poetry like that, in the most sophisticated Sanskrit, blended with the densest, philosophy. This tradition's no joke, right? It's no joke.
I think this person has to go forward, like I was saying, with the things that he fully believes in, but read Krishna Lila.
Well, that's what I was going to.
Krishna Lila, it will start to like draw you in so strong, almost magnetically, into understanding who Krishna actually is.
Yeah, and that's such a great point, Raghunath. You combine your sadhana practices with hearing Krishna Lila is our practice, Shravanam. Right, we're hearing it, and we're going to get there. Like, we're working our way up, but like it's taken us three years to get to the 5th canto. Yeah. Give us another few more years. We're going to be at the 10th canto, and then it's going to be Krishna Lila, and hopefully,
that's going to be exciting when we're doing the 10th canto.
It's so cool that like we just did the 1000th episode. There are people that have been listening for 3 years straight that have heard every episode. Imagine if together we all get to the 10th canto. How expanded our minds will be, how through our practices, through our sadhanas, through our sangha, we're going to be ready for that 10th canto, and we're going to hear the Krishna's Lila from a perspective. I predict that CJ will stays with us until then. When he hears that 10th canto, he's going to be in a whole nother place.
He's like, I'm leaving my body now. Goodbye, everyone.
But and all that being said, and I think all that's so important. We can go back to that analogy that you've warmed to, Raghunath, that I use all the time.
Yes.
First you didn't like it, but then you start saying, actually, I like that one. Okay. And that was the, we go back to Alice in Wonderland. When was Alice in Wonderland written?
Probably ancient. Seriously. No.
You think
It's like
Alice in Wonderland-
I bet it's 500 years old.
Mara,
Hold on a
you on
second,
that? Or are you
Mara's
knitting?
on it.
What are you doing? Okay, she's on it.
Okay, go on.
Well, so Alice in Wonderland was written like centuries ago, let's assume, right?
1850s, people are saying 1800s.
Someone got it? 1800s. Okay. So that was before telephones, was, and most certainly before like cell phone, the phones that we have now, like the iPhone, let's say, right? But in that story, you have someone that's looking into a looking glass, right?
Yes.
And talking to another person in another place far away. I believe. I don't really even know this story.
Truthfully, I don't know the story.
You know the story, Mary?
I don't know the story.
The looking glass.
I thought it was like an acid trip thing.
In any case, you heard the Jefferson Airplane song. So in any case, there's a story, someone looking into the looking glass and they're talking to someone that's in another world. So someone very far away. And people would read that and say, oh yeah, well, this is fantasy, right? This is fantasy. This kind of thing could never exist in real life, right? It's a fantasy. Yeah. But given enough time, what we saw is actually there's a science to it where that can actually be done, where we're all walking around with a looking glass in our pocket, right? And if you would have brought someone from the age where the story was originally written and they said, what do you got there in your pocket? Oh, it's called an iPhone. What is that glass thing? Well, I can look in here and I can talk to someone, like on the other side of the world. That's impossible. That's fantasy. That's not real. The possibility was there all the time. When we read of Krishna's Lilas and they sound like fantasy, is it just that it's impossible, or is it that our mind is so narrow that we in our experience is so narrow that it seems literally incredible to us, but that doesn't mean that it's not possible. And then if you're at the same time as you're saying, Ranath, if you're reading about Krishna's Lilas, trying to understand that mystery of that person who's the origin of all, and even though all powerful, omnipotent, still interested in one thing and one thing only, and that is love. And then you begin to look at Krishna's Lilas in that context. Why is he dancing on the hood of this multi-headed snake? Why is he lifting this mountain? And then as you get deeper into the theology, you understand it's all for the purpose of facilitating deeper exchanges of love. Well, then the whole thing begins to become quite a fascinating theology, and it begins to make sense. It doesn't become kitschy anymore. It becomes deep and beautiful and like an endless, lake that just goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's why we see like the greatest thinkers. In our tradition, we have these great thinkers who produce literature that blows, any skeptic's mind. Anyone that's willing to deal with it objectively will say Rupa Goswami's poetry is like it's off the charts, right? His, this philosopher and that philosopher, these texts are not ordinary. That these great thinkers would just find endless mystery and bliss in meditating on these pastimes and thinking about these pastimes and discussing these pastimes. It means I'm just sharing, I'm just throwing this. You and I kind of like got a gradual immersion in this, where the faith just kept getting deeper and deeper. We kept meeting more people and hearing more classes, and
we're like, wow, this person believes in it too. That person is not just a bunch of kookies.
And
I think at first I thought these guys are just a bunch of kookies. Then you meet these people of like, wow, this guy's actually very smart and he believes into it. And she's an incredible lady and she believes it. And all of a sudden your faith starts to grow like that as well.
And the way they explained it, I didn't understand that before. And
it's not just understanding a philosophy. It's having the philosophy transform you. So when you see people who are doing this practice and you're like, wow, they believe in this, and look at them as people. I want to be like that. Yeah, I want to be like that when I get older, or when I practice this. Or
That gets back to Yudhishthir's thing about, how do we understand what is real or what is true? One person comes and puts forward their theory, and then someone with a better debating skill comes along and tears down what they said, and then someone comes along later and tears that down. So if that's the case, then how can we understand what's true? And his answer was Mahajano Yena Gatasa Panta, by following in the footsteps of the great souls. See who nowadays you have these popular scientists, right? They appear on television and so on, and they talk about science, and they talk about the incredible mysteries and wonders of the universe. And who gets credit for it all? No one. It's because it's all just happened by chance, right? And they can't. That theory does not stand up to their own standards of prove that that's true. You can't prove that it's true.
Yeah. Right.
So and if you can't prove that it's that's true, then you have to accept that there's other possibilities. At least be honest about it, right? But their whole thing is, the whole thing is incredible and mysterious and wonderful and fascinating, and nobody gets credit for it, right? To me, that's just absurd. It's like it's over intelligent. So as you're saying, engage with this. You don't have to feel bad that you don't have that faith. You're already getting something from the tradition that's powerful and transformative in your life. That's absolutely fantastic. All we're saying is remain open to it. Consider that the mind could be expanded, that what seems impossible at one point, I'm looking at the world from a different angle now. I'm looking at the universe from another perspective now, through the eyes of great thinkers. And what seems impossible, like a looking glass at one point, will seem very real, like an iPhone at another point. What seems kitschy, like a kitschy children's story at one point, can seem like the deepest science in another point in your life.
And all these stories of hearing about Krishna and Ram is leading us to tomorrow, because we're going to talk to Shubha Vilas about the amazing Ramayan Lila. All the stories. We're going to go through the Ramayan actually tomorrow with Shubha Vilas, who's done he's done his versions of the Ramayan as well. But let's pick his brain tomorrow. He's got a lot to share on it. That's tomorrow, Sunday, 8 a.m. Eastern time. Anything else, Mayor? Gonna hit that music button. Hit that goodbye button. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks for Q&A day. We love it. Keep them coming. Send them to Mayor at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. This is a community supported podcast. I want to thank everybody in this big community, both others and Zoomers, who give a pledge. It means a lot to us, and this is what affords us to do this. We're going to episode 1003 tomorrow. Oh, it's April Fool's today. Watch out for these kids. They're troublemakers.
Oh, look at that.